Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are stepping right into the ring for a massive showdown between the heavyweights of AI coding assistants.
You know, developers everywhere are buzzing about this new kind of teammate, one that promises these huge productivity boosts. But the community is really torn, fiercely debating which one of these AIs is actually the true champion.
All right, so here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll meet our contenders. Then, we'll see how they stack up on paper versus in the real world. After that, we'll check out a pro's workflow before we deliver the final verdict.
Yeah, we're talking way beyond simple auto-completion now. Today's AI models are honestly powerful collaborators, and there are three names that just dominate the conversation: Claude, GPT, and Gemini.
Okay, so let's start with the specs. You know, the tail of the tape. This is what tells us what these models are capable of, at least in theory.
Let's start with a really crucial idea: the context window. Think of it like the AI's short-term memory. The bigger it is, the more of your code and your conversation it can hold at once. And as you can see, Claude 3's window is just massive. I mean, it can hold almost an entire legacy codebase in its head, which is a total game changer for big refactoring jobs. And even more important, those haystack tests, they show it has near-perfect recall, which means it's way less likely to forget some critical detail you told it hours ago.
But, you know, that top-tier performance doesn't exactly come for free. If you want the best of the best, like Claude Opus, you're going to be trading both speed and money. But the really exciting part is actually at the other end of the spectrum. Models like Claude Haiku are getting these rave reviews for being blazing fast and super cheap, absolutely perfect for just handling simple tasks without a second thought.
So here's the crucial point. Benchmarks don't tell the whole story, not even close. Let's see what happens when real developers actually put these tools to the test.
For some people, especially those who aren't career programmers, these AIs are an absolute revelation. I mean, this user described turning what would have been a 2-day data processing task into a 15-minute job. Come on, that's not just an improvement, that's a superpower.
But for the seasoned pros, the reality is a little bit different. They'll use these tools for the grunt work, looking up documentation, but when it comes to the real heavy lifting of high-level design, they see them as more of a minor convenience, not the revolution that everybody's talking about.
And this slide, this just captures the universal frustrations perfectly. You've got users constantly hitting message limits. The AI loses context mid-conversation, forcing you to start all over again. And sometimes it's just plain stubborn, refusing to answer totally harmless prompts. And even worse, they hallucinate. That's when the AI confidently just invents code or functions that simply do not exist.
And that mix of frustrating limitations and just flashes of sheer brilliance leads to this perfect analogy that you see come up again and again. The experience is like guiding a junior developer, one who makes silly mistakes and needs a little nudging, but also has instant access to this vast encyclopedic knowledge base that no human could ever compete with.
So, how do you work with that brilliant but flawed junior developer? Well, let's dive into a specific case study and check out one power user's playbook for getting the absolute most out of these tools. In this case, it's a terminal-based interface called Claude Code.
This developer, Steve Sewell, he basically flipped his entire workflow on its head. He used to code in a main editor with an AI in the sidebar. Now the Claude terminal is his primary interface, and he only peeks at the code to review the changes. It's a really fundamental shift in how he interacts with his codebase.
So one of his biggest frustrations, and a lot of users share this, is the permission system that's constantly stopping to ask for approval to edit a file or run a command. His solution? A little command line flag that just skips permissions entirely, letting the AI work without all those constant interruptions.
So why bet everything on Claude's own tool? It's pretty simple, actually. You're going direct to the source. Third-party tools, they have to juggle multiple models and still turn a profit. But with Claude Code, Anthropic can optimize everything to work perfectly together. It's like cutting out the middleman and getting the best performance for your buck.
So, after all the rounds, after all of that, who's the winner? Well, the judges' scorecards are in, and it looks like it's a split decision.
Yeah, the consensus from users is that different models just excel at different things. A lot of people feel that Claude 3 is currently superior for pure coding tasks, often solving really complex problems in just one shot. But for general reasoning, writing, or tapping into a mature ecosystem of plugins, users often find themselves going right back to GPT-4 or Gemini.
And honestly, this is the real takeaway. Forget the benchmarks for a second. The best tool is completely personal. It's all about your coding style, your specific needs, and frankly, which AI you just click with.
If a tool feels right for your workflow, that's the only benchmark that really matters.
But here's the thing. Crowning a winner today, that's kind of missing the bigger picture entirely.
This analogy just puts everything into perspective so perfectly. We're all celebrating that Claude 3 beat a version of GPT-4 that is over a year old. In that time, OpenAI has been training like a maniac, and their next release could be another massive leap forward that completely changes the game all over again.
The pace of change here is just staggering. These models are getting better, faster, and cheaper at a rate we have rarely ever seen in tech. So the real takeaway isn't about who's winning today. It's about recognizing that we're watching the opening lap of a race that is going to redefine how we build software. Today's champion is just a preview of what's to come. Because this race, it has only just begun.